Hi, you all just finished a U-Try where you got to solve an application problem, and it happened to be one of the Pythagorean Theorem application problems. So the problem says there are two cars, they left an intersection at the same time, one heading due north, the other heading due west. So if here's our intersection, one's heading north and the other one is heading west. Alright, sometime later they were exactly 500 miles apart, so they had a long trip. So the distance between those cars is 500 miles, okay? The car that was headed west, that's this one, had gone 100 miles less than the car headed north. Okay, so here's the north car, we'll just make it X for its distance that it traveled. And then for the car going west, it was 100 less than that, so X minus 100 would be the distance that it traveled. The directions north and west are perpendicular to each other, so we've got a nice little right angle here, and we have a nice right triangle. So how far had each car traveled? So we want to know X, and we want to know X minus 100. From here, I've got a right triangle, and I'm solving for side lengths, so hopefully the first thing that comes to mind is the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. For us, it doesn't matter which one you decide is your A value, it just matters that you pick one. So how about X squared for A and X minus 100 for B? Your C has to be the hypotenuse, though. It has to be the 500 squared. Okay? That's what our equation looks like, and again, if you have these two switched, you're okay. Alright, it doesn't matter in the long run because adding is commutative. So let's see, we've got X squared, X minus 100 squared, that's X minus 100 times X minus 100. And so we have to distribute X times X is X squared, X times negative 100 is negative 100X, negative 100 times X is another negative 100X. And negative 100 times negative 100 is a positive, let's see, 10,000? Is that right? Has four, I just add the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. And if you do 500 and you square it, let's see, we're going to do, it's 625 plus 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whew. Big numbers. But it's all good, okay? Oh goodness, not 625. It's just 25. Goodness, 5 squared is 25, not 625. I was like squaring and then squaring again. There we go. Alright, so 250,000. Alright. From here, I can tell it's going to be quadratic, so I should probably move everything to the same side. So I'm going to subtract that 250,000 from both sides. Alright, and combine some like terms. X squared plus X squared is 2X squared. Negative 100 minus 100 is negative 200X. And, let's see, 10,000 minus 250,000 is negative 240,000. Alrighty. Whew. Lots of zeros to deal with. If you want to, you can make your life a little bit easier and divide everything by 2. You don't have to. But it does make your numbers, half as big, which is kind of nice. We'll have an X squared. That'll be a minus 100X. And that'll be minus 120,000. Alrighty. And from here, you are welcome to factor if you would like to. But for me, 120,000 is a big number, and I don't feel like going there. So I'm going to use my quadratic formula. The opposite of b would be the opposite of negative 100, which is positive 100, plus or minus the square root. So negative 100 squared is negative 100 times negative 100, which is 10,000, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is my negative 120,000. It's all over 2a, so 2 times 1 is 2. Whew. Alright, if you do everything inside the square root, if you do that negative times a negative, you're going to get a positive, so it's going to feel like you're adding inside. Just to let you know. So really you're doing 10,000 plus 4 times 120,000. And so when you do all of that, you end up with 490,000. It's all over 2. All right, and then the 490,000 is a perfect square. Take the square root of it, you're going to get 700, hooray. So now we got 100 plus or minus 700 all over 2. So we have 2 options. We can do 100 plus 700, which would be 800 over 2, and 800 divided by 2 is 400. The other option is to do 100 minus 700, which is going to give you a negative 600. That negative should be some sort of a red flag for you, because that would be going in the opposite direction. So that's not what we are looking for, okay? So now that we know that x is 400, I like going back to the picture. So my x was the distance that the car that was going north traveled. So that northward going car went 400 miles. The west car, the one that was headed west, did 100 less miles, so 400 minus 100 would be 300 miles. Okay, and that's how far each car traveled.